My name's Russell Spatz. I'm an alcoholic. So I was over at Lester's Diner and with about 3 or 4 guys, and I did the entire 5th step meeting, and I want to let you know it was incredible. You should have been there. No, I'm serious. You really should have been there because I forgot the whole thing. So you're not going to get that one. That was the better one. You're going to get whatever's left over. Whatever's left over. That's the deal. So, by the way, Clarissa, congratulate to all the celebrants, and everybody's here. But Clarissa, I just want you to know, when I saw you up here struggling, because you obviously, the synapses weren't working, you had lost all sense of thought, you had no idea where you were like in a fog and everything like that. I thought I was watching one of my home movies, and and that kind of stuff. I just wanted to let you know. I know with an alcoholic brain, you guys think that kind of situation where you're lost and you need help and you don't know where you're going is a problem. That is actually the first signs of advanced sobriety. And they fucking think I'm kidding. They think I'm kidding. I think I'm joking. And if you do this thing right, it's going to get worse. And one day, you'll have advanced dementia. There will be no thoughts going on. You might be able to negotiate the bathroom or something, and you'll be happy. And that's how it works. Thinking is really overrated. Every time I run into an alcoholic that's got a problem, it's always preceded by a whole lot of thinking. Alcoholic thinking. I think our whole program is about somehow, in some way, canceling out all the bullshit, all the worldly clamors, do away with all if-onlys, why me, and getting to the point where there's no thinking going on, unless you're up here at the podium, and then you don't even think then, because you ask the Lord to come in and have you tell you what to say, and then you do some meeting, and you can't even remember what you said. Somebody says, what you said really helped me out. I said, great, I wish I could remember. That kind of thing. But when you're a thinkaholic, I'm a thinkaholic. See, the drinking's but a symptom of my disease. The real disease centers in my mind. And the first 10, 15, 20, 25 years gives you an idea as to how crazy you are. Now, I know you think you get that idea like around the 2nd step, where, you're supposed to have some idea that you're insane. But trust me, it takes a little time on the planet. You need to be a live alcoholic on the planet dealing with all the bullshit of this world, sober, physically sober, to really understand how insane you are. It takes a lot of 3 o'clocks in the mornings, sucking your thumb, a lot of 4th steps and 10th steps in every step in the world, a lot of trying to figure out why is it taking so long? You've been doing it it takes a lot of agony. You got to learn the value of suffering, you know what I mean? So I'm going to say something. Now, the good news is, or the bad news is, depending upon where you're sitting, is the big book says, supposedly if you do this thing right, you're going to lose fear of people. Which I believe means, this is all my opinion, you understand that? I'm in my 46th year, and this is, and this is what I've learned. I'm just telling you what I've learned, and the bottom line is, in this deal, you learn that over a period of time, you get a change of perspective by repeated humiliations, the final crushing. You learn that in many respects, the big book is absolutely right. You only learn by repeated humiliations, the final crushing of your self-sufficiency. Otherwise, you rest on your laurels, you think you're okay, and then you end up drinking. You start playing God and stuff like that. But I'm not even going to go into that stuff. There's this movie called, with Tom Cruise, A Few Good Men. And in the movie, has anybody seen that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Jack Nicholson?
Oh, yeah.
And in that movie, Tom Cruise is supposed to be the hero. And I've seen that movie 17,000 times. And every time I see that movie, I'm only waiting for one scene. I think it's the most important scene in the entire movie. Yeah. It's the scene that everybody quotes. It has nothing to do with Tom Cruise. It has to do with Jack Nicholson. And the end of the last thing he says, I can almost quote really the entire thing. We don't have to. The last thing he says, the truth He says, I deserve the truth. He says, the truth, you can't handle the truth. And he tells him the truth. And the only thing anybody remembers is that what he's saying. You know why? Because he's talking truth. He's talking truth. And everybody knows he's talking the truth. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. You know, we talk about loyalty. We talk about God. He says, to you, it's just a fucking punchline. To us, it's the reason we live. You know? And this is where, if you do this thing right, you got to learn and live by the truth. Rigorous honesty. The ones that don't make it are the ones that can't develop a life that demands rigorous honesty. And the way we live naturally, comfortably, what's comfortable to us is rigorous dishonesty. So you get people, I mean, I can't tell you how many calls I get. People from all over the world, really, they call me up and they say, blah, blah, blah. Somebody called me up the other night and said, I'm going into my 7th or treatment center or something like that. I can't seem to make this thing. And want to know what I think is the best treatment center. And, you know, and I can be obnoxious sometimes. I say, you don't need a treatment center. You just don't need another vacation. You've done 7. What do you think? You're going to learn something up in the 8th one? You just need to fucking grow up. You know what? And you know what she said to me? She said, that's mean. Well, you know something? You called the wrong fucking guy. Because I wanted to save her life. And she thought hiding that in another treatment center for 28 days would do it. You know? That's what she thought, that would do it. And I've seen a lot of people running around trying to figure out this thing, and they call me up, and you know what I try to do? I tell them the truth. I tell them the truth of my own sobriety. I tell them the truth of what I know and what I've seen. And many of them don't really want the truth. They want me to tell them something that's comfortable. They don't want me to do a Dr. Young. They don't want me to do a thing when Roland Hazard says, I don't understand what's wrong. I was with you for a year. Now, having known the inner workings of my mind, drinking is impossible. It's not possible. And then he got drunk. He says, what's it? He says, and this is a doctor who runs a treatment center, world famous. And he says, man, I'll tell you, how many doctors would do this? He said, you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. I've never been able to help anybody, but that mind exists. Mean. So mean that Roland Hazard said, I felt the doors of hell were closing on me. It's in your big book. And he says, is there no acceptance? He says, here and there for thousands of years, people do recover. It's a phenomenon. It's a miracle. We don't understand why. It says it has to do with God. You know what the big book says I'm supposed to do here? It says in my own language, from my own point of view, an alcoholic talks about how he developed his relationship with God. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I do anytime somebody asks me anything. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear about the perfect 4th step, the perfect 5th step, or where to go and what to do. And I just talk to them about God. And they don't really want the truth. They just want me to tell them something that'll make them feel good. They want me to give them a program in one line. I don't know how to give somebody the program in one line. You know what I mean? Where all of a sudden they walk in and say, I'm better now, I'm recovered. You know, because that's not the way it worked for me. You know? 46 years of getting slam dunked by everything in life. 2,000 years ago, a guy named Nicodemus, the head of the whole deal in Israel, late at night goes and visits Jesus. And he says what he says to him. He says, we all know in Sanhedrin that you're a miracle worker, that you must come from God. I'm here to investigate and bring it back. You know, I'm the guy that's supposed to bring it back. What's the deal? He says, you got to be born again. You got to be born again. He says, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. He says, it is what he says. He says, I tell you what I know and what I've seen, and you guys don't accept my testimony. How can I tell you anything else? 2,000 years later, they write a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. In the book it says, you will be reborn. Where the hell did they get that from? The same story has been told for thousands of years. Many are called, but few are chosen. We don't want to hear it. I get a call at night from a gal, and I might have told you this. It's a registered nurse. She's a doctor of nursing. And she's got a job, but she's being overseen by that nursing deal that oversees you. I forgot the name of it. You probably have a nurse in here who knows about it, and she can't drink again or she'll lose her license. She's a single mother. She calls me up at night. I'm on relay. I'm taking all the calls for AA for 8 years. She calls me up and says, I had a drink last night and I'm really scared because I know they might take away my kid. I might lose my job. I need you to help me. What do I have to do? I get guys all the time tell me I've been sober for a year, then I drank 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I drank. You know what I mean? Give me the secret, Russell. Give me the secret. Tell me the secret. So she says, can you tell me the secret? Tell me what I have to do. He says, but there's only one thing. I don't want to hear anything about Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, I'm glad she told me that. Yeah, really, it sort of helps me out. So I said to her, well, let me tell you something, we have a problem. She says, why? Miss PhD in nursing. I says, why? I said, well, number one, I'm like 3 or 4 years sober or whatever it was. And I said, and the only reason I'm sober is because of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I don't know what plan B is. So you're calling, I'm like the wrong guy, You got to call somebody nice. Not like Dr. Young or any of these other, you got to call somebody nice that tells you something that you like. He says, well, what's the second reason? I said, you called Alcoholics Anonymous. Yeah, that's the problem. The problem is no matter what I say or how I say it, I'm going to come back to the one thing that nobody in AA wants to do. Oh, they want to give it a little lip service, say the Serenity Prayer, and walk and pick up a white chip and say they believe in God and hold hands and everything, but making him the central fact of their lives. God is everything or he's nothing. What's your decision going to be? There is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. But what if we can't find you, Dr. Bobby Bill Wilson? We're not important. God will determine that. Your real reliance must be on God. He will show you how to create a fellowship you crave, which is going to be a godly fellowship. See to it your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. You'll meet some of us, but believe me, it's going to be a small amount in the fellowship of the Spirit. I know you're in AA. You'll meet a few of us in the fellowship of the Spirit. You'll meet a few of us in the fellowship of the Spirit that aren't even alcoholics. Burn the idea into every alcoholic's mind that he get well no matter anything, as long as he trusts God. Men who cry for money or power, if I only had my wife back, he says they can't be helped because the truth is the only reliance is about God. Now you find him now. Half measures, nothing. Half measures, nothing. The truth you can't. So they read everything in the big book. How to do the 4th step, how to do the 5th step, how to do this, how to do that, without realizing that all the steps and everything in the big book is to get you to the point where finally at the end of all these steps, you have a serious relationship with God and he's the central fact of your life. But the steps can work so well for a season that it'll stop you from drinking for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. And then it's been my experience that, after 20, 25 years, between 25 and 40 or 51 years, it's like a vast wasteland. And it's not because everybody's dead. You just watch the countdowns at the conventions I've been to. What happens? Oh, man, between 1 and 20, they're all standing up. They're all there. After 20, 3, 4, 5 people, maybe 20 to 40 or something like that. I've seen them drink at 22. Not only that, most of the people that call me up have like 15, 20 years, 25 years, and they're not happy about their sobriety. You like the book Bill Wilson wrote at 3.5 years? You ought to read what he wrote when he had 20 years. In 1959, it was published, that part about the next frontier, emotional sobriety, where he said, I got it all wrong. That's got to make you feel a little queasy when you're reading as Bill sees it, as Bill sees that, as Bill, you're worshiping Bill. And then at 21, he's saying, I got it all wrong. I put too much depending on money, property, prestige, and on AA. That's got to get you a little crazy. What do you mean by that? Dr. Bob knew what he meant by that. Dr. Bob was the guy who said the books we found absolutely essential are 1 Corinthians 13, Sermon on the Mount, and the book of James. That's what he said. He said, see to it your relationship with God is right and great events will come to pass and you countless others. First meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous was Dr. Bob putting his foot on the rung of dining room chair and reading from the Bible, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, the Sermon on the Mount. Now, you might be hearing this for the first time because you won't hear this talk in AA. You understand? You just won't hear it, People will say to me, I've never heard this, and I've been in AA for 20 years. I've never heard any of these facts. I said, at my meetings, well, I hear it all the time at the meetings I go to. You know what I mean? That's the deal. So how do you tell somebody that there's a line in the Bible? I get a lot of good stuff from the scripture, which they did for the first 4 years. And that's important to me because in the big book it says, rarely ever seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path, and their path was not to read the big book. I'm not going to explain that to you. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. This big book was published in 1939. For the first 4 years, they were reading the Bible and the upper room and things like that. So you're entitled to your own opinion. You're just not entitled to your own facts. So here's the deal. Oh, by the way, I am going to get the fifth step. It'll take me about 5 minutes at the end. I'll give you the fifth step. It only took me 5 minutes to do the fifth step. Only took me 5 minutes to do the fifth step. I did the fourth step after how long it took me to do the fourth step? 6 months and 2 hours. I didn't do it for 6 months. I'd say, my sponsor said, he says, I'm working on it. As I said last week, it's alcohol code for it. Leave me the fuck alone. I ain't never going to do that thing. I don't know how to do it. I can't figure it out or something like that. I got so desperate. Some guy named Henry at a meeting, I complained. I said, I don't know. I'm going crazy. I know I should do the fourth step. I haven't done it. And he says, listen, you go home tonight and you pick up a pencil. I said, I was always thinking, how do you do it? Thinking. Alcohol, how do I do it? I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to start or anything like that. It's driving myself crazy. I didn't know anything about the fourth step. There's a chart and everything like that. I didn't know how to do it. I went to all these meetings on how to do the fourth step. He said, this is what you do. Go home tonight and pick up a pencil. Nobody had ever told me to pick up a pencil. Because when you're a brilliant alcoholic, you've got to plan this shit. You got to think, you know what I mean? And I went home and I picked up a pencil. I opened a book. Look at that chart. Mr. Jones or whatever it is. I put down my cousin Valerie. I put down this one. I put down why I resented her. I had no problem putting down why I resented that bitch, and I put it all down, you know what I mean? And everything like that. And I said, how did it affect? There's like a little thing, my self-esteem. I started to draw lines, my self-esteem. Then it said, look at that. Cancel out whatever you think they did for you. Where were you at fault? Wrote down my faults and stuff like that. Then it said, list of fears. No problem with that. Fear of being broke, fear of people not liking me, fear of not, being humiliated. People talk about me. I put down my fears to the best I could. Then the sexual thing, I put down whatever I could put down. It's not like I didn't have sex. I had more sex than anybody in this room. Of course, I was always nervous and alone, but oh, now I know what you fucking guys are into. Now I know what's really going on here with you guys, Are you okay? Is this group okay? Are they going to be able to handle this shit?
They should have been at dinner.
It should have been at dinner. This is the mild stuff, I'm not even going to talk about the chickens. But it ain't even. Well, that's your story. I'm not going to get into that, I have no problem with two consenting mammals getting together, I don't know whether chickens are mammal, though.
Fowl.
It's foul. It's a fowl.
They're foul.
They're foul. Okay.
They are foul.
So in any event, this is one of those days he talks about, go down in history as saying, keep yourself away from that one, and everything. So after I did the fourth step, it took me 2 hours. I went to 2 hours, literally. You know why? You're going to say, well, how come you can only take 2 hours? Because it was a lousy fourth step. It was a lousy, crappy fourth step. And as a result of that, I'm sober. I'm in my 46th year. So you do the perfect one. I've seen them do the perfect one. And they drink. Because it's not about the fourth step. Because once you do the fourth step and you get it over with, you'll do it again and again and again and again for 1,050 years. Because the 10th step says we continue to take person. You'll do stuff you forgot. you'll add stuff, you'll do stuff, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So, see, that's what people think. People think I do the first step and then I'm okay. I do the second step and then I'm okay. I do the third step and then I'm okay. I get on my knees one time, I give myself to God, and then I get up and I check my bank account and I'm okay. I do the fourth step and then I'm okay. And you're not even close to okay. You spent 31 years thinking like a fucking banana. You're an idiot. You're stupid. You tell yourself lies. You're delusional. You can't separate the true from the false. Your alcoholic thinking seems normal to you. You could not live life in any way possible with the things that's going on over there and survive with your brain. And you come in here, you do a 4-step, and you think that's going to solve your problem. That's how crazy you are. That's how crazy I am. You think all of a sudden you're going to be a new person and everything's going to be wonderful. And so I did. So what happened? I immediately did the 5th step. I said, who do I want to do the 5th step with? And I came up with the idea I do it with my psychiatrist. I mean, I liked my psychiatrist. I trusted my psychiatrist. He was a good guy. He was not mean. You know, when you do with somebody you don't know, you take the chance that you might run into somebody mean that might tell you something that's mean. You know what I mean? And, you know, when you're a child like me, when you're 31 years old, but you have the emotional capacity of a thumb-sucking crybaby 2-year-old. You understand what I'm saying? You know, well, you guys wouldn't understand because I understand you're all spiritual, not religious, and you're at a higher level. But the bottom line is, I had feelings. I told my sponsor, I had a mean sponsor. I told him I was sensitive. He said, no, Russ, great artists are sensitive. You're just touchy. You know, he had no compassion for me whatsoever. And so I figured I go to my psychiatrist. Yeah, I think they're trained to be able to help you out over a period of time by not being mean, not confronting you or stuff like that. So I took my 4th step there, and I read it to him. I sat down and read it to him. It cost me, I think, $150 or something like that. I read it to him. I told him all about the thing and everything like that, and at the end, he sort of flipped his notes. He says, I got notes from a couple of years ago. You didn't say anything about drinking. And I said, that's the only thing I remember from that session. But I did it. I went to my meeting that night. And I told him, and the meeting, you can't believe this. You see, this is how God works. You see these little coincidences. It was on the 5th step. I had done it. And went around the room, and it got to me, and I said, I actually did the 5th step today, and, I feel, whatever the heck I said, I don't remember what I said. And the next guy to talk said, this is what he said, the next guy, he said, well, I don't know much about the 5th step, but I know you can't do it with your psychiatrist. Man, I put that guy on my shit list. I developed an immediate resentment against that son of a bitch, you know what I mean? Which is hard to believe because I'd done 4 and 5 and I thought I was well, you know? And afterwards I complained to my sponsor. He said, Russ, you didn't hear what he said. I said, I was listening to him. He said, you can't, no. He said, I don't know much about the 5th step. He said, oh yeah, because he doesn't know anything about the 5th step. You see, read the book. It says perhaps our doctor or psychologist would be the one. You know what I mean? But I understand that because you think you did these 2 steps and you're okay, and you're still. So what I learned, this is what I learned. I'm just going to tell you what I learned. That the only way this thing worked for me after 20, 30, 40 years, and I'm just going to give you the truth right now, and you do whatever you want with it, okay, is hanging around with men and going to meetings where the central fact in their life was God. Period. Stop. End of stories. You become who you hang around. You become who you listen to. You become the people, if you want what they have and you're willing to go to anything to get it, period. Stop. End of stories. You don't hang out in the parking lot with guys who are smoking looking to get laid, okay? You don't hang out with the bullshit. You understand what I'm saying? This is not Well People's Anonymous, okay? I hate to disabuse you if you think that this is Well People's Anonymous. This is where all the crazy people that you hung out in the bar with that told you, don't worry about that bitch, kick her to the side, you're the greatest guy in the world, you shouldn't even be married. This is where you got all that information from. You understand what I'm saying? They're all here explaining to you that you don't have to buy into the God stuff. And we're all talking about God stuff, and everybody's sitting here, how can I do this without having to do that? Because they're not interested in the truth. So I hung out with guys with 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I go to meetings listening to them. I would hang out with them. And I'd go to 3 meetings. Not easy for me to go to 3, 4 meetings. I was going to 3 meetings before Zoom. Before Zoom, I'd go to the car. On the way in the office, I'd go to the car room, 7:30 meeting. I'd go at 12 o'clock to a lunch meeting. On the way home, where I used to go to the bar, I'd go to a 5:30 meeting, the Sunset Room. And at 8:30 in the night, my sponsor might pick me up and I'd go to another meeting. That's 4 meetings in one day. And people are talking about 90 and 90. 90, and I still do that. I still do the same thing. I'm speaking here tonight. Tomorrow I'm speaking in Southwest Ranches. I've been to 3 meetings already before this on Zoom. I do the same thing over and again. And every single meeting I go to, they talk about God. Seriously, not as a throwaway. They talk about God. And all the people that go to those meetings, you know what they talk about? They talk about God. You know why? Because my big book says God will show you how to create the fellowship you crave, and that's the fellowship I crave. And you know what happens? The more I talk about God, the more I believe in God. The more I believe in God, the more I have faith in God. The more I have faith in God, the more I think about God. And the more I think about God, the less I think about some skirt. Because underneath every skirt is a slip. I'm talking to the guys there. You know what I mean? And the more I hung around meetings, I think about God, the less I worry about sex. And the more I go to meetings, the more I focus on God, the less I worry about money, property, and prestige. And the more I do that, the better I act towards other people. And the more I do that, the more I think about God, the less I think about bad things about myself and other people. And then the more I think about God, the less I think. Because my life doesn't require much thinking. You know what I mean? That's the deal. And you know what that is? That's the truth. So I just told you the truth. You say, well, I'm not into that. Fine, then don't be into it. It's okay. I ain't looking to impose my deal on anybody. But I'm obligated up here to expose who I am to people. Because there might be somebody in here who's got 50. Every time I'm talking to a group, if you even had any idea how many people actually make it to 20 years. The percentages. You think it's 75%? You think it's 50%? You think it's 80%? How about maybe 2%? Maybe 3%? Maybe if I'm speaking to a room of 200 people, maybe in 20 years, maybe there'll be 3 that are sober. And 2 out of those 3 will not be happy with their sobriety. You ever read that big book? It says here and there, once in a while, a former drinker says, feel better, look better, have a better time. We laugh at that kind of crowd because we know that he will soon try the old game again because he's not happy with his sobriety. Maybe he won't drink. Maybe he'll just feel sorry for himself. Maybe he'll just do a Bill Wilson at 20 years. God, the guy knew more about the steps, knew more about the 4th step. He taught it. In 20 years, he's writing a book. He's saying, I'm depressed. I don't know why this thing can't work on depression. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'd already tried the LSD. These days it would be like trying Xanax or something like that. It was legitimate that day, But you want to know something? That guy had the guts at 20 years. Can you imagine? The guy with the longest sobriety at 20 years to say, I got it all wrong. I screwed it up. Yeah, and he put it in writing. And he said, but I found that there are some people. I know a lot of old-timers that have don't have emotional sobriety, but I found, this is what he says. You check it out, read it. He says, I found there's a few people, I call them the benighted ones. He said that somehow have broken free. And it has something to do with the St. Francis prayer. By the way, he said the secret's in the St. Francis prayer. And he actually got it wrong. I'm not, I don't, maybe he didn't think, it was here we can discuss it. It's not in the prayer, it's in St. Francis, the guy who wrote the prayer. Because the prayer is serious. The prayer is, I'd rather love than be loved. I'd rather understand than be understood. The prayer is serious, but the prayer was authored by a guy named St. Francis. So you start looking into St. Francis, and he was like us, he was crazy, and then he found the Lord. He came around, he figured this thing out. He read between the lines and he wasn't scared and he finally did the truth. And Dr. Bob, on the other hand, who had always been into the God thing. He's the one who said the books we found absent, all that sort of stuff. The last words on his deathbed that Dr. Bob said to Bill Wilson said, Bill, let's not screw this thing up, keep it simple. Because the simple thing is, there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. So you want to forget. So, I could talk to you about the step. The 4 steps easy. There's a chart. Talk about the 5th step. You find a close mound friend or something like that. You sit down and talk to him what he did in the 4th step. Don't worry about whether it's perfect or not. Just get it done. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be perfect. You want to know something? You are going to do a perfect. Wait a second. You're an alcoholic. You're going to do something perfect? Really think about that for a second. You know what I mean? You're going to do something that's probably not going to be perfect. Get it done. You'll perfect it. After doing it for 20 years, you'll figure it out. You'll get it perfect. You know what I mean? And that's the 5th step. That's all I have to say.
Recovery inspiration is sitting right there waiting for you. Rocketed.org AA speaker recordings brings real voices and real stories straight to your ears. Subscribe now so you never miss a new recording dropping. Keep that motivation on tap and help spread the word. Hit subscribe and let recovery find you every single day.